and passing away in 1999, was the first foundation member to receive his Gold Star. Then Brian Gardner in 2003, I believe, and Barry Green in 2005. Debbi-Kaye's tonight is the fourth to be presented in the Lake Tekapo Brigade. But I mentioned Bill Clark sitting down there, who was a foundation member who has moved on to Ashburton, of course, and also has attained a Gold Star. It's really important to note tonight that not only do I think this is the first husband and wife, it is certainly the first female Gold Star. Debbi-Kaye is certainly the first female Gold Star in the province of Canterbury, I believe. That'd be right, Gordon? Right. You get the record keeper, well done. And only the 10th female recipient in New Zealand. That's a great honour for you, Debbi-Kaye. Gold Stars, not everybody gains a Gold Star in the fire services. In fact, I'm not quite sure of the percentage, but it's only a relatively small percentage. And since 1878, since they were first presented, there have only been, Debbi-Kaye's is Gold Star number 7,072. So you work back to 1878, and it is a fine achievement. Now, I just talk a wee bit about Debbi-Kaye. It's all right. With Brian in the brigade, of course, Debbi-Kaye soon got involved. Couldn't keep a good girl there, could you? She went and got onto the radio at the station, I think, and manned the radio. Is that right, Debbi-Kaye? Well, before you joined the brigade. But then, on the 16th of January 1988, Debbi-Kaye Gardner joined the Lake Tekapo Volunteer Fire Brigade. She was so good that in 1991 she was appointed a senior firefighter. A few years later she became a station officer, and in 2004 she was appointed Deputy Chief Fire Officer. Debbie, of course, as you know, had a very big role, along with Brian and Bill Apes, in setting up the St John's section, and Andy Green, I think, was involved in that, in Lake Tekapo. And that's indicative of a lot of Gold Star recipients, that they are involved in the community, not only in the fire brigade, but in the community in other spheres. And obviously Debbi-Kaye and Brian saw the need for an emergency medical response here in Lake Tekapo and did something about it, and I think that's wonderful. Debbi-Kaye also was encouraged to join the Provincial Association and stand for the executive, and of course she was elected onto the executive and became the first female president of the Provincial Association, and did a wonderful job in her term as president. Now Debbi-Kaye comes to the stories, and I think it is what I say, don't ever let a chance go by. So here we go. Well, they're all good. I must say, it does get cold down here, doesn't it? I mean, I was talking to Andy, I think, the other day, to get a bit of information, and Andy tells me it was so cold the diesel froze in the ambulance. I mean, I've never heard of that before. Doesn't happen when you're Brighton, I can tell you that. But I mean, that's how cold it is. But I heard this wee story about, apparently it's only good to -10, this diesel they've got now. But back in 1987, Debbi-Kaye was keen to get a lot of training and get all the knowledge. She was travelling, I think, with Willie to a training course in Timaru. It was early in the morning, in the winter, and Willie picked up Debbie in his car, and Debbie had just had time to have a shower and rushed out, and her hair was still wet. And guess what? Willie's heater wasn't working in the car. And Debbi-Kaye's hair apparently froze solid. I think this was hilarious. And a little tied up in a bun. Froze solid, and didn't thaw her out for an hour later after they got to Timaru. Oh, good luck. Yeah, so that's amazing, isn't it, really? You think of that. And I believe that on many a call-out, Debbi-Kaye would invariably need to go to the loo. She obviously got a problem in that department. And whilst they were responding to calls, Debbi-Kaye would be always looking out the window for a Magic Gary book. Oh dear. I believe she also wore to fire calls. Could you imagine this? Going to fire calls and she's got these big blue pearl earrings on. And apparently, this didn't happen once, but several times at the end of the call, she got back to the station and found out that her earrings, one of her earrings had disappeared. So she had the boys looking all around the station, the appliance, and then in some cases had them go all the way back to where the fire was to look for her earrings. Blokes don't have that problem. This is quite good too, because apparently Debbi-Kaye, like someone, I think someone used to pick her up in the night when they had a night call. Is that right, Debbi-Kaye? You'd go out on the street. Yes. And Debbi-Kaye is standing on the side of the road. Wait, this is in the middle of the night call. Siren goes, out of bed, wearing her nightie and dressing gown. How lovely. And, so she was picked up, and apparently it is also rumoured that on one occasion there was only a towel. Oh, it's cool as a wrong. And someone else tells me a story about a night call and Debbi arriving again in her sleepwear, proceeding to strip and change into her firefighting gear in the back of the appliance whilst it was on the way to the call, and nobody in the back of the cab realised what was going on. Obviously became quite an expert. Debbi-Kaye, it's great stuff, and I'm sure there's a lot of other stories that some of you would know. But I believe also, Debbi-Kaye, that once you tried to keep up with the boys with a bottle of bourbon and it took you 2 days to get over it. So you've certainly provided a lot of humour and enjoyment in the brigade, Debbi-Kaye. But on a personal note, I would just like to say that Debbi-Kaye, to me, has been an icon amongst firefighters in Canterbury. She has stood out. She is an icon. She was a bit of a legend in her own time. Debbi-Kaye, you have been a great ambassador to the fire service, particularly in getting women involved in the service, which was a pretty close shot. You might remember right up until the late 80s and 90s. It was a pretty close shot. Debbi-Kaye, you proved that women could do the job. I think you've been an outstanding example. I think you've shown through your leadership, through your ethics, your bearing and your enthusiasm that women have a big role to play in volunteer fire brigades and the fire service in general. You did a grand job, and I say a grand job in your term as the President of the Provincial Fire Brigades Association. I'm only disappointed that we haven't had any other females stand for the executive. And I'm sure that if you had wished to, you would certainly have gained election onto the UFBA. But I know that you now have other commitments with your dedication to the St John's Ambulance, and it would be extremely difficult. So Debbi-Kaye, you have well earned the gold star that I'm about to present to you. It is an honour and a privilege for me to do so. It recognises your 25 years service to the communities of Lake Tekapo, to the communities of South Canterbury, and the fire services of New Zealand. So now, Debbi-Kaye, I would like you to stand up while I dispense your 5-year medal. Brian, I'd like to give that to you. And I'm now going to award you. And I bring with me the best wishes of the President of the United Fire Brigades Association, current President Brian Waters, Morrinsville, who asked me to be remembered to you and pass on his congratulations. Your 25 years service award recognised in yours. I'm going to get another Thank you.